The Tower of London is renowned for its unsolved mysteries. What happened to the princes? Who murdered King Henry VI? Was George, Duke of Clarence, really drowned in a barrel of wine? These are just 3 examples from a long list of enigmas. In the fall of 2018, a new mystery was added. In the Bloody Tower, a strange-looking head was uncovered in a painting. The identity of the figure and the context of its origin remain undetermined. The tower staff joked that it could be Mrs. Raleigh, the wife of Sir Walter Raleigh, as the Raleigh family lived on the upper floor of the Bloody Tower, where the head was exposed. Speculation that it was a creation from the Napoleonic era was dismissed, as the head appeared too old. Experts suggested that it might depict a Roman emperor, though the artist did not specify which one. I believe I have solved the mystery. While I don't have definitive proof, such as an invoice from the artist, I think the available evidence paints a clear picture. The head is likely closely related to Raleigh. Let's examine this step by step. Dr. Agnieszka Sadrai informed the public about the find on the Historic Royal Palaces blog on December 4, 2018. I have linked the article in the description. Andrea Kirkham was commissioned as a conservator to completely expose the head. The following findings come from her. First, the head was painted by a trained expert. Secondly, a technique called marbling was used, indicating that the large room behind the wall with the head was of high status. Thirdly, the head was on the outside of the room wall on the upper floor of the Bloody Tower. The fact that this is no longer easy to see today is due to the many transformations the tower has undergone over the centuries, particularly major renovations in 1914. Fourth, the head is on the original wall, over which several layers have been applied over the centuries. Dr. Sadrai added that the head cannot be older than 1605, as the area of the Bloody Tower was rebuilt around that time, likely at Raleigh's insistence. We have a letter from him dated 1604, in which he requests better accommodations. Anyone hoping for a prince in the tower will be disappointed. The head is too recent for that. Dr. Sadrai also convincingly argues that the Bloody Tower was no longer used to house prisoners after the 17th century. Instead, the premises were used as accommodation for yeoman warders. We know this because they have repeatedly reported seeing ghosts there. It is likely that the guards did not have the money or authority to commission an artistic picture on a wall, suggesting with great certainty that the head is a creation of the 17th century. Raleigh lived as a prisoner in the Bloody Tower from the summer of 1603 until his execution in 1618. He had an annual budget of £208 for food alone, equivalent to about £59,000 today, USD 77,000 or 70,000 euros. He was allowed into the garden and received visitors, making it plausible that he commissioned the head. However, this is not enough to definitively attribute the picture to him, nor does it explain who is depicted. To the untrained eye, the head appears extremely strange. The profile is atypical for a painting of the time, but this has a simple explanation. It is a copy of an image from a coin. This is why the tower specialists immediately thought of Roman emperors. At that time, what people from antiquity looked like was known primarily from coins and a few statues. The coin offers several explanations. We see the suggestion of a diadem, indicating that the figure is a ruler. This helps us determine a maximum age, as coins featuring images of rulers did not become common in the Greco-Roman region until after Alexander the Great. From 269 BC on, the Roman Republic minted coins that we are familiar with. All early coins showed a ship's hull on the reverse and images of gods on the obverse. Later, Romulus and Remus were also depicted. Images of rulers only became common, starting with Caesar. so theoretically, the coin could represent a Roman emperor. However, two reasons suggest otherwise. 1. Roman imperial coins usually also show letters. The artist could have omitted these, but he otherwise works in great detail. 2. The head has a beard. While some Roman emperors, like Marcus Aurelius, were depicted with beards, many preferred a clean-shaven look. In combination, these factors indicate that the head is more likely that of a ruler from the Greek region after Alexander the Great. This points us to the Macedonians, whose kings often chose to be depicted with beards without lettering, and with other design features found on the tower wall. Inevitably, the question arises as to why a person in the Tower of London in the 17th century would have a Macedonian king painted on a wall. This leads us directly to Raleigh. He wrote the book History of the World during his imprisonment in the Tower. He focused exclusively on ancient history. A reason for this, though unrelated to this video, is so fascinating that I cannot omit it. Dealing with modern history could lead to knocking out your teeth. Raleigh did not finish the work, stopping it prematurely of his own free will. The context is extremely interesting. In 168 BC, the Roman general Lucius Aemilius Paulus conquered the Kingdom of Macedonia. His opponent was King Perseus, whose life story shows astonishing parallels to Raleigh's. At this point, I must give a trigger warning. I can't say all the words on YouTube, but one case involves a person's death, for which they are responsible. We must discuss this now. If you prefer to avoid this, please skip to the next chapter. In 172 BC, Eumenes of Pergamon successfully stirred up the Roman Senate against Macedonia, triggering the war. After the decisive defeat, Perseus was criticized for not ending his own life to escape disgrace. Raleigh himself writes about this in his historical work. He was in the Tower because he was accused of participating in a conspiracy against King James I in favor of Arabella Stuart. Raleigh attempted to take his own life. In July 1603, he thrust a table knife into his chest. Letters to his wife Elizabeth show that he felt great shame. In his farewell letter after his death sentence in July 1603, Raleigh writes, "My name shall be a dishonor to my child. I cannot endure the memory thereof. Unfortunate woman, unfortunate child." Perseus was brought to Rome for a triumphal procession. Usually the prisoners died during or immediately after the event. Perseus, however, was spared and imprisoned. Raleigh experienced something similar. On the day of his execution, James suspended it, leaving him in the Tower. Perseus was allowed to live in prison with his family. He had his son and brother with him. Raleigh, too, lived with his family for several years. His son Carew was conceived in the Tower and born in a house on Tower Hill, rented for the birth. There are two versions of how Perseus spent his captivity. According to Plutarch, the Romans tortured him to death by sleep deprivation. Livy, on the other hand, reports that he was treated well. Raleigh opted for the first variant in his presentation. His imprisonment mirrors both versions. His letters testify to deep depression, yet he had a comfortable life for a prisoner. He had his family with him for several years, a study, visitors, correspondence, access to the Tower Library with more than 500 books, and the freedom to visit his garden. Raleigh regarded his History of the World as a textbook. He often went beyond historical accuracy to weave in his theories. What he writes about Perseus is interesting. He would rather have been very gentle and would have considered that the greatest oppressors and the most undertrodden wretches are all subject unto one high power, governing all alike with absolute command. Raleigh uses a pagan variant of a Christian image here, one he also employs frequently in other writings. He speaks of an oppressor to which Perseus was subjected. However, Perseus was a king. The impression is reinforced by the following parallels Raleigh describes in his work. I refer to the first version published in 1614 when he was still imprisoned in the Tower, with no real prospect of a pardon. The relevant descriptions begin on page 773. Perseus, like Raleigh, is said to have never hoped for release. If Perseus had known about his family's economic fate, he would have pulled out all the stops to better equip them. Raleigh wrote countless letters from captivity asking various people for financial help for his family. Perseus became a victim of the arrogant thought that he could do as he pleased. Although Raleigh always protested his innocence, he attributed his situation to the same problem. For example, he wrote to his son that there is no more dishonorable man than an accuser besides a traitor. His advice was therefore, speak little. We can also find parallels between the antagonists of Raleigh and Perseus. The Tower prisoner writes about the Roman general Paulus, that he received as much honor from his victory as men could give. However, God was pleased to take away his 2 remaining sons. Paulus's joy at his victory was rewarded by his private misfortune. Raleigh's opponent, James, had become King of England with all honors. However, he had already lost his actual heir to the throne, Henry, with whom Raleigh had an excellent relationship. Henry frequently visited him, and the historical work was dedicated to him. After Henry died in 1612, Raleigh broke off his work. James's second son, Charles, was still alive, but a sickly child. There were great doubts about whether he would reach adulthood. Paulus wisely accepted the loss, Raleigh judged. He was glad that his misfortune was personal rather than communal, the Roman reportedly said. James experienced deep personal grief, but quickly returned to state affairs after Henry's death. For example, a letter to Sir Thomas Edmunds with precise instructions for further action survives from 1 month after Henry's death. I believe Raleigh stopped here because he saw himself as Perseus and James as Paulus. Assuming the head is Perseus, we must consider whether the visual comparison is fitting. To this end, I have created a comparison using the best preserved coin of Perseus available. At first glance, the comparison may not seem entirely conclusive. However, let's focus on the details. The area between the lip and chin is distinctly defined in both cases. The nose and forehead also share a similar shape. The coin shows Perseus with a beard that does not extend to the ear. This gap with implied intermediate hair is also visible in the painting. The coin depicts the diadem holding back Perseus's hair, and similar hints are found on the head in the Bloody Tower. The pointed rays emanating from the head on the coin are also present. The eye areas are similarly shaped. Although the tower picture is very faded, the ribbon with the knot securing the diadem is also present. There are other coins of Perseus, but due to their age, they lack the same level of detail. An exception is a silver coin, which I want to show because it indicates it is not just a hairband. I can't determine which coin Raleigh might have used as a model. For example, this one shows an even clearer similarity but lacks detail, so I didn't use it for the main comparison. The most significant difference between Perseus and the image in the tower seems to be the sharp jawline in the painting. However, traces are suggesting that the jawline might not be accurately represented due to wear or alterations. In the description, I link to a blog post titled Roma or Perseus. This refers not to the king, but to the mythical figure. Nevertheless, the explanations provided are very interesting. For Raleigh to commission an artist to create an image based on Perseus's coin, he needed access to such a coin, or at least a sketch. He had incorporated the story of the king into his book, so he at least had information about Perseus. Additionally, there is a letter indicating Raleigh's desire to be sent historical works. The Royal Mint was also located in the tower, providing Raleigh access to the coin experts of his time. I therefore consider it plausible that Raleigh had access to an appropriate image. But did he also want to depict the king on a wall of his prison? There are various indications that he did. Raleigh constantly compared antiquity with the present. In one instance, he compared Roman, Macedonian, and English soldiers, concluding that the English were the best. This quote from the preface of his book is particularly revealing. "It is enough for me, being in that state I am, to write of the oldest times," wherein also, why may it not be said, that in speaking of the past, I point at the present, and tax the vices of those that are yet living in their persons, that are long since dead, and have it laid to my charge. But this I cannot help, though innocent. And certainly, if there be any that, finding themselves spotted like the tigers of old time, shall find fault with me for painting them over anew, they shall therein accuse themselves justly and me falsely. Raleigh understood that his book was used as a comparison between past and present. While nobody should recognize themselves directly, focusing on the past inevitably pointed to contemporary issues. This brings me to my conclusion. The parallels in the lives of Raleigh and Perseus, the placement of the episode at the end of Raleigh's book, where Queen Elizabeth's favorite deliberately breaks off, the similarities in design, and Raleigh's deliberate play with past and present make me believe that it is Perseus. This is purely my interpretation. Raleigh saw himself in Perseus. He therefore positioned the picture on the outer wall of the room where he lived, but did not work. If I'm right, the picture was probably created after 1612. This would explain why it was painted over and forgotten over time. After Raleigh's execution in 1618, there was no longer any need to preserve it. My members can find the script for this video in the community tab of my channel if anyone wants to read it and recheck it. What do you think? Does this fit? In any case, as always, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe to help the channel.